So thank you everyone for joining us, to the speakers and to our attendees. This session, as you know, it's going to be talking about Atlassian's newest announcement, which is their journey to the cloud and cloud migration. In this session, you will learn a bit about the cloud, about data center, Atlassian's other option, the benefits, and everything that is attached to this announcement. With me to help me with this discussion from Appnovation, we have Myron Parks, who's our Director of Technology, focusing on reliability engineering. I have with me Faisal Al-Jaby, who is our Account Director, focusing on Atlassian accounts. And he is a bit modest, but I will say he's our Atlassian expert over here at Appnovation. And I'm happy to have Ben King with us from Atlassian. He is the Senior Solutions Engineer. Glad to have you everyone here. And we're gonna kick this off, and hopefully it will be a super casual and nice conversation that we're gonna have, so everyone watching us will get the information they need. And to our attendees, if you have any questions, there is the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Feel free to put your questions over there, and throughout this session, we will tackle them. First off, I will give the stage to Ben King to tell us more about the newest announcement. What is the journey to the cloud, what it means to the partners, and what it means to everyone who is on the Atlassian platform or is thinking on getting on the platform.
All right, thanks, Nassim. And thanks for having me, everyone. My name is Ben King. I'm a Senior Solution Engineer at Atlassian. I've been working with Atlassian's largest customers for over 5 years now to help them adopt whatever scaling technologies make sense for their business. In the past, that was working a lot with data center, and now I focus most primarily on customers that are interested in moving to cloud. So in the past couple of months, Atlassian made a pretty big announcement to our user base regarding our server product. That announcement was that we will no longer sell the server license after February 2nd, 2021. And then server will no longer receive updates and support after 3 years later, February of 2024. This means that customers that are currently on server have a kind of 3-year grace period to choose a new path forward, or do so as soon as they're ready. And that leads customers to a crossroads of choosing either a data center deployment that they can scale with long-term, or moving to our hosted cloud offering, which is kind of comparing those two options and giving you tips and tricks along the way is what we'll be covering today.
Thank you, Ben. That was awesome. Thank you for that quick brief about the announcement. And Faisal, I know you definitely have something to say about this from a partner perspective and from Appnovation's perspective. So the stage is all yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nassim. And thanks, Ben. I think that was very helpful. I think, from my perspective, just as Nassim said, I've been working a lot with our Atlassian customers and a lot of organizations for the past 4 years or four and change years that I've been with Appnovation. I've kind of been through the gauntlet of different customers, their needs, and what this might mean for their business. So a lot of our customers are on-prem and server deployments. So looking to talk to you today about how Appnovation, as a partner and a top-tier partner globally with Atlassian, can help make this move frictionless and as easy as possible, and help you leverage and really capitalize on all the benefits that you're getting from a move to either cloud or data center, both of which are enterprise-driven platforms, and can be either choice is good for your business. I think we can all agree that the market as a whole is moving towards a cloud-first mentality, and Atlassian is definitely leading the charge there. So looking to give you all some confidence and answer some questions on how Appnovation as a global partner with Atlassian can help make this move frictionless and ensure the success of your migration and the future of your Atlassian tools. So excited to be here and looking forward to talking to all of you today.
Perfect. Thank you, Faisal. That was on point. Myron, if you got anything to say on top of that from your own perspective as a reliability engineering, that will also be awesome. Myron, you're muted.
Thank you so much for letting me know about the mute. But absolutely, Nassim, thank you so much for having me here, Nassim, Ben, and Faisal. I'm so excited today to talk about this migration to what I consider to be the future. At Appnovation and Reliability Engineering in particular, what we're striving to do is build an end-to-end delivery pipeline that allows us to integrate tools like the ones that we're going to be talking a little bit about today in your development processes, but most importantly in the workflows that you're using to run your business so that your teams are best able to add value to the market. And so I'm really excited to share this moment and talk about this migration path and the future of this particular platform today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Myron. So this sums up the three angles that we're going to be talking about: a bit of a technical, a bit of business, and a lot of future and what to expect and how you should go. So before we did this webinar, we sent out emails to some of our clients, prospects, and asked them to send us their questions, what they are curious about when it comes to this announcement, what to expect, and how to plan the path into either migrating to the cloud or going onto data center. And we got back quite some interesting questions, which our audience, which our speakers are going to be answering them. And I'm going to just jump right on it. And the first questions we got is actually asking about, okay, so they are reluctant to make the move as it will potentially increase their cost. So they are curious about what is the cost of ownership when it comes to this migration. Faisal, that would be great if you can give us a hit from an Appnovation perspective, and maybe Myron can talk a little about what to expect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a great question. It really is the question that most of us are going to be thinking about with this move. Most customers want to know, what is this going to cost me? What's the dollar value to this? Atlassian has historically been one of the most price competitive software providers on the market. So whether you're looking across deployments, you're always going to see that the price for the product here, for the product suite, considering the value you get from it and really the potential that you can unleash from your teams, will always trump a lot of the other competition on the market. So that's always been a reassuring factor, and I think it's still consistent even with the recent changes and the recent shifts. So, I mean, total cost of ownership, Nassim, and I think you touched on that, is super important to look at. We can't be short-sighted and look at only the pure licensing cost. It really is the total cost of ownership that you should consider, and really applies to both the data center and the cloud worlds. Wherever you're moving, total cost of ownership is definitely the benchmark that you should be looking at. So, I mean, I can pull up numbers, and it's really a reference point for the pure license price for across, cloud premium and standard. Obviously, the different flavors of cloud, with enterprise being another option, and measure that against, DC and server. So let's take the 500 user case, for example. So let's say an organization has 500 users of server Jira. That is going to cost today about $40,000. So you're looking at a $40,000 pure license cost, perpetual license. Granted, I think everyone here knows that. Now, when you're looking at data center 500 users, you will actually see a decrease in that price. So you're looking at $24,000, just about $25,000. Already a huge decrease in price when you're looking at a data center 500 user installment. Now, when you take cloud standard, it is even lower than server as well. So you're looking at about $29K worth of licensing. But really, the value that I wanted to showcase to everyone is in the price of Jira Cloud Premium. So as you may be familiar, Jira Cloud Premium is a bundled offering. Comes with the premier support, comes with Atlassian access for SSO and governance and security, and all the bells and whistles, unlimited storage, financially backed SLA, 99.9% uptime guarantee. That is at $46,500. So just to go back to my initial price of Jira Server at $40K. Without any of the added offerings, you're looking at a small delta of $6,500. So I think this is a great segue into maybe, Myron, what you can talk to us about is all the other factors to consider when looking at the total cost of ownership and what you're eliminating from on-site support and cost of maintaining your servers, and really an archaic sort of the diminishing way of business, and what you'll be saving on to actually move onto something like Atlassian's hosted cloud offering. Myron, do you want to give us a better idea of some of those different things that we'd have to consider and other factors to really benchmark this comparison?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Faisal. Thanks for asking me. Um, I'd like to approach this question a little differently than you've probably heard before. When thinking about the total cost of ownership, it's really important to know that as the business, you understand what your operational costs are. So the first thing, and this is the approach that we take at Appnovation, is we join you as a partner to help you to make these decisions for yourself. And so one of the things that you want to consider is the scalability. As in the new world, this is something that was in the roadmaps for lots of organizations around the world, maybe like a 10-year roadmap. But the new realities of the world of working is that people are working where and with whom they want more, and you have a lot more distributed teams. And so scalability has actually taken a much larger priority than before, when people were located to, connecting regionally to one server or one instance and things of that nature. And so you want to consider your distributed team support as well, your agile suite of tools. You want to also include the cost of doing upgrades on the platform you run your instances on as well, training, configuration, infrastructure, and the total cost of supporting your on-site infrastructure is really important to consider as well. And so when you think about this question, look at your operating costs of running your instances in your server room or your on-site instance. And finally, and this is an unfortunate thing you want to consider as well, is the reality of new risks that are associated with managing enclosed physical spaces. And so you really want to consider if that is a core competency for your organization, the value that you bring to the business market. And that's going to help you come up with a number for your total cost of ownership that allows you to make the right decision. We believe that decision is moving in this direction with us, but we want to empower you and give you some things to think about when you're making that decision for the organization.
And Myron, to add to that, you make a very great point. I think to add to that, Atlassian has made this completely easy to plug in some numbers and really what Myron said, get a figure on that total cost of ownership. So working with us as a partner, we can also steer you in the right direction to look at Atlassian provided resources like a total cost of ownership calculator that can really drill down into what these cost savings are and what the value is from moving to cloud to data center. So I'm looking forward to having conversations with everyone on this call today, and in our follow-ups, hopefully help guide you through these different resources that have been made available and help you make your assessments through that as well. So Myron, that's an absolutely great point. Thank you.
You're welcome, Faisal.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you, Myron. That is perfect. So what I understand basically is that the total cost of ownership for migrating to the cloud or data center will definitely be on the client side as compared to being like staying on server. So this leads us actually to our next question, which is a very important question. And the question that we got is, what would be the reason for me to actually move to the cloud right now or to data center right now as compared to waiting until the actual end of life, which is in 2024? And I don't know, but I feel this question might have both technical aspect and the business aspect. Ben, would you like to let us know from on the technical aspect from Atlassian side? That would be perfect.
Sure, happy to. Yeah, it's a good question. And the first thing to note about this and any timeline concerns that you might have is that you don't have to do anything right now, right? We are not forcing customers to move on February 1st, 2021. We are just simply not selling any new customers this product. And so that you should take comfort as a server customer that you have 3 years of a runway to pick a path forward and make this decision with the due diligence that it deserves instead of rushing it. That being said, the reason that you might want to accelerate that decision-making process is that the server platform is no longer going to be growing or receiving improvements. It will be maintained. It will not crumble underneath you, but it will not be receiving anything new. So all the innovation that Atlassian is putting into our R&D and our new features will not be coming to server. So in that sense, you are continuing to use a platform that is not giving your users the best possible experience. And when you look into the future, you need to kind of be thinking about your applications in that light. And that would be why I might suggest doing it sooner rather than later.
Thanks, Ben. I know, Myron, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is almost following on from the total cost of ownership question. But one of the first things that you should consider when you're thinking about this question is when you expended the resources from a CapEx perspective to build your current workflow and your current systems, leveraging tools like this one, you want to ask finance how many years till you actually amortize the full value of that. And so let's say they come back and say, look, well, we plan to be using this for 5 years to reap the best benefits for the enterprise. And so you want to future-proof that investment. And you want to make sure that your teams are aligned and so that you can continue adding the value that was supported in the business case for bringing these tools online, let's say a year or two ago for the next 3 years. And you want to make sure that while companies like ourselves at Appnovation are laser focused on getting you the best migration possible, leveraging a partnership, our partnership model to get you there, so that you can actually get the best value out of our partnership with you as well as supporting your long-term investment in tools like these.
Thank you, Myron. Okay, the next question is actually also linked to that, and someone is asking, we have more than 500 users, but I'm not sure whether we should move to the cloud or data center. And I think a lot of people might be wondering, what's the best choice for me? For our organization, should I be on data center? Should I be on the cloud? Ben, Faisal, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, Ben, how about you jump into that one first, and I can add any points, but once you wrap up.
Yep. So I see that question having kind of two prongs to it. The first is the 500 plus user element, and then the second is just kind of cloud versus data center in general. So the first thing for 500 user plus organizations, cloud and data center are both similarly equipped to handle large scale usage. I would say for any customer under 10,000 users, they are essentially equivalent, right? They both include high availability, limited downtime, disaster recovery, and the security that we do in our cloud. So you can think of it at a scaled usage as being pretty similar. Once you go above the 10,000 user mark, that's when data center starts to shine on top of cloud. Our user limitations are ever increasing, but right now I would say at around the 10 to 15,000 user mark or above, generally speaking, might be a good use for data center. So then, just thinking about data center versus cloud in general, at scale and for any scale, like I said, you'll receive some similar benefits in terms of things like uptime, but it's important to note that our cloud and data center offerings are actually built upon two different code bases. And the reason I'm telling you this is that what that means is that cloud and data center have different roadmaps and different feature functionalities. So it's not safe to say that a feature that goes into data center is also going to go into cloud. That very well could be the case that cloud gets completely different feature set to data center. So the reason that this is so important is that at the crossroads that you might be at right now, and you're thinking about whether to move to data center or cloud, also remember that decision invests you in a particular roadmap as well as a particular current feature functionality. I don't know if Faisal, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think you touched on something that, the ever increasing user limits, and I've been around since cloud was at 2,000 users, and now we're looking at 10,000 users and even beyond that, which is just a testament to how much R&D dollars have been spent on hardening that cloud offering and making sure that it's enterprise ready and can handle that load. So I think that's great to hear, and sort of I've experienced it personally. To add to that, I think, and we're seeing really less and less of these, I would call them fringe cases. So in addition to the 10,000 user plus situation, which obviously is for very large enterprises, enterprise-wide adoption. I think data residency too or any sort of Hipaa compliance. We as Appnovation, we do work with a lot of pharma and life sciences customers where Hipaa compliance is in fact something that is still enforced and is still required from these organizations. So hosting behind their own firewall on a redundant infrastructure where you have that sort of that failover safety and you can spin up multiple nodes, but still retain control of that infrastructure and deploy behind your firewall. That's a use case that is still valid for a data center deployment. Now that being said, and I think maybe we can touch on the compliance and the transparency and the data privacy from a cloud standpoint. That being said, it is on the cloud roadmap that Hipaa compliance will be coming down the road. So that is no longer something that would disqualify being deployed on the cloud. And even things like FedRAMP and things that would make it impossible, would have made it impossible for organizations, governmental or federal agencies to actually move on to Atlassian's cloud. It's now more easier than ever with a lot of these things that have been made available. So there are some fringe cases where customers would still want to deploy on data center behind your firewall. They're less and less common, I can say from personal experience, because the cloud is so ready to take on these customers and just makes sense from a financial standpoint, given the circumstances that we currently live in. So I think that's definitely fair to say. But definitely keep your eyes peeled and ears open to any announcements that come on the cloud platform with regards to any sort of compliances that would force you to deploy on a data center deployment, even though you're not past that 10,000 user limit. So I think those are all fair points.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Faisal. Before we jump to our next question, we have a couple of comments actually from our audience and a question that is directly related to what we just said. So one of the comments that was there is that furthermore, the more data you add to your instance, the more costly and difficult it becomes to migrate to cloud and DC. So I think this is this I think remark is connected to whether you should make the jump to the cloud or data center right now or wait until 2024. I believe that is true. Ben, Faisal, does that make a point?
Yes, it does. I mean, generally speaking, yes. The more complex your instance is, the more challenges you might face in a migration. So that's 100% true. However, the only thing I would add to that is that over time, our migration tooling will continue to improve. So as if you can't go to cloud right now, fear not, because our migration tooling will continue to improve over the coming months and years to the point where when you are ready, the path will be even easier. So maybe even for a complex instance from a data perspective, our migration tooling will grow to accommodate that nicely.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead and add one more thing, Faisal and Ben. Like in that same time, our team at Appnovation is continuing to partner with Atlassian and doing and supporting our clients to do more difficult and more complex migrations as well. And so we will continue iterating on our process to service the needs of clients in different verticals, markets. The one thing I wanted to also add about roadmaps to the thing that Benjamin said is that server and cloud have different roadmaps, but you also want to consider the applications that you use as well. And so there's an incentive for you if you have critical applications and add-ons or integrations that you've put into your workflows using either Confluence, Jira, or some of the other newer, more exciting tools like Jira Online. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you get the opportunity to join the conversation early. On our team, we've actually partnered with several add-on makers to add features as they've been incentivized as well to make their tools more robust, more scalable, and activated on the cloud platform. We've been able to get into their development cycles and their refactoring cycles to get new features added. And so if there's an add-on that you really, really like that has been maybe stagnating or not prioritizing the things that you've needed to do, this is a really great opportunity for you to take advantage of the fact that they're going to be refactoring. It's really great that you said code base, Ben, because they're going to be refactoring their code bases as well. And as they find opportunities to improve things, there may be things that they may have to rewrite completely, and your feature may go in there pretty well. And so joining the conversation with a partner like Appnovation, who's a top tier partner with Atlassian, is definitely the way to go.
I totally agree. And Myron, to add to that, I think Madhu's question here perfectly touches on that. So I think, Madhu, your question was, since all the third-party vendors are not ready with their add-ons migration to cloud, it's very difficult to migrate to cloud, which is totally understandable. And just to touch on what Ben just said, excuse me, you know, the migrations to cloud are becoming more and more frictionless. We do recognize that this was not on everyone's roadmap. It has been incentivized for a lot, just like we're incentivized as partners to make sure that the migration of our customers are frictionless. Similarly, marketplace vendor partners have that same sort of incentive to make sure that the migration to cloud and offering a sort of the cloud path to migrate cleanly and successfully is something that is top of mind for them as well. So while it might be difficult right now, first of all, there are different alternatives on the cloud platform that might not be a direct migration, but partners like us can help you map that migration out and make sure that your data and custom functions and everything is built out in your cloud environment. Needless to say, that might come with a degree of complexity, and that varies in extent. But also, I think as the weeks, months progress, we're going to see more and more vendors with very sort of a very clear path to migration onto the cloud for their add-ons, their apps, and their plugins. So there's more to come around that. I definitely want to invite Ben, though, to address Madhu's first part of their question, which is data center also will data center also get decommissioned after a period of time, or is it here to stay, sort of thing? And did anybody successfully migrate Jira data center over to the cloud versus server to cloud, for instance? Ben, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question and a totally understandable concern. First of all, to give some background on why we're doing this at all, we had 3 different deployment options that a customer could choose from: server, data center, and cloud. And what we were realizing was that our server customers were not getting the investment that they deserved, right, being on that platform. And that was because we, as a R&D organization, couldn't give due diligence to 3 different platforms, right? And so we decided that by paring it down to 2 options, a customer would get a fully, invested in solution that they could trust and invest in over the long term, right? And that leads me to my point about data center, which is that data center is not going anywhere anytime soon. Data center is our enterprise grade on-premise deployment option currently and for the foreseeable future. So while we have made this decision about our server product, there is no plan currently to replicate that strategy with our data center offering. And then Madhu also asked, if it's possible to migrate from data center to cloud, which it absolutely is. Customers that are currently on data center or might go to data center in the future can always migrate to the cloud if and when they're ready to. It's something that we see all the time and something that we're very much prepared for. So even if you are a server customer that might be going to data center for the immediate future, if cloud is your long-term goal, then that can still be the second step to the overall process.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, Madhu, I hope that answered all your questions. We're gonna jump to our next question just to be mindful of time. So I think the next question might be jumping to you, Ben, because the question is about from a technical standpoint, how hard will it be to migrate to the cloud?
Yeah, this is a question that everyone wants to know, and there's a lot of elements here. I'll try to touch on some of the big ones. So the first thing to note is that there are two methods of migrating from on-premise to cloud. There is an all-at-once kind of approach where you copy-paste your whole site on-premise and then paste it into a cloud instance. That option has quite a bit of risk because you're doing everything all at once, right? And you're kind of going through the back door to grab everything and move it. The second option for moving to cloud is what's called our Cloud Migration Assistant tools. These are apps that are available for free in the marketplace that allow you to pick and choose what data you are ready to move into a cloud instance. So this project is ready to move, but then a week later I do my second project. That also will migrate your users as well. So that's kind of the methodology, right? The nuance here, the potential problems or the things that you might want to think about are things like user management. The user management in the cloud is different than it is on premise. We have a product called Atlassian Access, which is our centralized user management and security platform for cloud. It puts all of your users into one place and then allows you to connect that group of users to a SAML-based identity provider for SSO and security, and things like that. That's usually seen as a positive. It's a great feature, but it is different, right? It might require a kind of rethinking of the way you do user management. The second big element is apps, and we already touched on this a little bit, but it's worth reiterating. Migrating apps is one of the biggest challenges in the cloud migration process. And this is something that we highly recommend using a partner for if you have this kind of complexity in your instance. Our migration tooling does not move app created data. So any data that you created through the use of a third-party app. The reason for that is because there's so many apps and the migration tooling is fairly young that we haven't yet created the ability to move that data. So it can create a problem for customers who have a lot of apps. This is where partners can come in to help because partners have that relationship with other vendors that Myron was alluding to earlier. Partners can help you figure out a data migration approach for all those different apps that you might have. And that's a huge benefit to leveraging a partner in this process. So those are the two big kind of areas of potential confusion or potential problems, and something that that you'll investigate heavily in during the early stages of a migration. We highly recommend spending months, or spending several weeks kind of investigating, testing, doing test migrations to understand how these types of things will affect you in particular.
Awesome. Yeah. And to add to that, Ben, I think you touched on this briefly. Well, where we come in as partners is that we can help with that pre-assessment and identifying what the migration path is for a lot of these apps that are usually like Ben said, they are the point of contention for a lot of the migration, especially when there isn't a clear path to migrate the data and the users and all that over to the cloud. So the assessment of apps and figuring out your migration path and what that strategy and planning for downtime is all what our value as partners and what we can handhold you and your team through the process with. And even beyond that, once you are already migrated and everything's done beyond just getting you migrated onto the cloud or onto the data center, our experts will work with your with your power users, with your admins, and run train the trainer workshops so you can get used to the differences in UI or the functionality differences, and really make sure that your users, your admins, are empowered to share that knowledge across the organization, and that you're really leveraging the benefits that you're going to harness from moving either to data center or to cloud. Although there is a lot more to be said in terms of changes from an on-prem environment to the cloud environment. So we will make sure that that you and your users and the rest of the organizations enabled to to basically leverage the new features and the power of the tools that you're going to be moving to, and make sure that you're familiar with different UI changes. So that's also the benefits of having Appnovation and being involved as a partner.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Faisal. That sounds awesome. I think the next question is also connected to cloud. And honestly, when I was doing a lot of research when it comes for this webinar, I've run through this question a lot, and it's good that someone have asked it. And the question is, we are worried about security and compliance. How secure is your cloud solution, and where are your cloud data hosted?
Yeah, awesome. I think I would love to tackle the initial part of this. And I think speaking from experience, I was personally very reluctant when first this news came out, or I think throughout, there's just that natural reluctancy of the security of cloud environments. I think, as I mentioned, we work with a lot of heavily regulated, FinServ, pharma, life sciences clients, and even government, defense, and aerospace, where cloud hasn't been a point of consideration for a lot of these customers. And it wasn't until I was engaged personally with a telco customer of ours that required a lot of these sort of assessments and certifications and compliances to be shared beforehand and examined beforehand as part of their security assessment. It wasn't until then that I realized how transparent Atlassian has been with the security and data privacy and sort of the information security standards that Atlassian has and sort of operate under, until I realized basically that everything's available publicly for all the customers to see. So I would definitely, if you're not familiar already, if anyone that's considering the cloud offering should definitely jump to Atlassian's trust page. So Atlassian.com/trust. There you're going to see everything related to security, reliability, privacy, compliance. And in addition to that, you're going to see a platform roadmap as well of all the different features, the compliance standards that might be coming down the road. So just a quick snapshot of that. You're going to get your ISO 27001s for information security management systems, the 27018 for protection of PII. For your FinServ clients, SOC 2, SOC 3 reports are available to download and publicly for all the customers or any visitors of Atlassian.com/trust. You have the BCI DSS, which is the payment card industry data security standard. There are also VPAT 508 accessibility compliance. And now, like I mentioned before, we finally have FedRAMP for all government and federal needs. So all those things are always going to be requested from a lot of organizations that do have heavy compliance and security standards. But what I just mentioned hopefully will alleviate a lot of these concerns because everything is available out there. And I think even to go a step beyond that, third-party assessments of Atlassian's tools are also available. I personally was able to request that and got constant and sort of very timely engagement through the partners that actually provide that information and follow-ups to make sure that all the information that we wanted is readily available. And there are some SSA sort of security assessments that have been completed as a whole, which we work with Atlassian to facilitate and share those answers, so we can make sure that your security concerns are all answered. And I can speak with confidence that unless, again, it's a fringe case or some of those cases that would be really only suited for data center in some of those very unique circumstances, the cloud security for Atlassian is second to none, and the transparency that they provide to get all those resources is super substantial. So I'd invite all of you, contact us, contact myself. I'll happily walk you through all those resources that are available. Or if you want to do something on your own time, definitely check out the Atlassian.com/trust page, and everything I just mentioned will be publicly and readily available for everyone to view and assess from there. Ben, I don't know if you have anything to add on top of that in terms of Atlassian's viewpoint into this.
No, it's something that we're investing heavily in. It's something that we've made a lot of progress in over the last few years. Like Faisal said earlier, we've gone from 2,000 users to 10,000 users. We've had that same kind of progress when it comes to our security and compliance. So you'll see that investment come to fruition over the coming years if there's something that is not there yet.
Awesome.
Thank you. The next question came to us and it's like, what kind of supports or services will I get if I decide to move to the cloud? I assume that also if they're moving to the cloud or data center. Myron, do you want to tackle this question? You're muted again, Myron.
I have to
Don't
use
worry
the right
about it.
application to
That
unmute.
happens all the time. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think it's a really great question. Thanks a lot, Nassim, for giving me the opportunity to answer this. And I think uh, when you're moving over and leveraging our partnership model at Appnovation, it's really important to understand that we consider ourselves to be, while we do have a deep bench of experts on the technology, we do understand that that's enabling technology for you to be able to run your business, to run your teams, to help them to deliver the most value to the market. And so we consider ourselves guides that are not only going to take you there, but are going to actually be there with you on that journey and make sure that you're comfortable on the way once you get there, to make sure, like Faisal was saying earlier, that you've actually arrived and that you're the one that determines when things are done versus us having our internal process and you just being done on a particular date. You're a part of those conversations, and we iteratively, especially in the case where you have very complicated migrations, we want to iteratively build you up into the point that you've actually received all the value, and you can actually use those work streams or those value streams in that new cloud solution. Our approach is where when we work with you, the first thing that we do is we assess your environment. We look at the tools that you have, that you're utilizing, and we determine the feasibility of what we're planning to do and what your approach is. We then validate the needs of your organization. We look at the value streams. We look at the processes that you're using and the ones that you want to actually automate with these tools, whether you're choosing the data center solution or the cloud solution. We then complete that migration in partnership with you. And this looks like us doing designing with you, building test instances, training you so that you actually have, there's, I learned a long time ago on sort of like this management law class that from a contract perspective, consideration is really, really important. And one of the parts of consideration that we forget oftentimes is whether the person is aware enough of the situation to actually say, yeah, I'm ready. And so this is why in our approach, we include training before you test it out in your environment so that when you say, yeah, we're ready, you've actually validated that your team is ready to use those in production. And then we work with you on that migration to your production environment. And finally, we offer, to what Faisal was saying earlier, we offer post-implementation support for our partners, primarily on those work streams that you want to automate and that we agree before, during, and near the end that we want to make sure are operational before we finish our partnership up with you. And so this is the approach that Appnovation brings to the table, and I think you'll enjoy working with us from that perspective.
That is a great topic, Myron. I love it. And I know, Faisal, for the next question, you touched on that question earlier in one of your answers, but I think maybe we should add more to it. And the question is about what kind of incentives are available to clients or prospects when they're deciding to move to the cloud or a data center.
Yeah, and that's something great to touch on, and I'm glad we're getting the opportunity to elaborate a bit on that. There's really two things that a lot of organizations need to consider that are currently on an on-prem or server deployment. There's the extended cloud trial license. I think this ECTL is very, very valuable to a lot of customers. What this means and what this enables you to do is run a cloud license in a production functionality setting, maybe not necessarily in production, but as a full-featured license, which you can actually use in tandem with your on-prem server deployment to do your test migrations, to make sure you're comfortable on the cloud system, and make sure everything, all your boxes are checked up until that production deployment. So once you sign up to a cloud site, you get that enterprise cloud trial license. And through that, you can really make sure that you are very comfortable, the migration has been successful, and you've tested stage migrations multiple times to ensure that your production run is going to be, pass any sort of acceptance criteria that you have, and you'll be ready to to get up and running in no time. That's been a huge plus for a lot of our organizations and our clients that we work with that are currently looking to move to cloud. I think this reinforces what Ben said at the top of the conversation, is that you have time. This is not a sudden change. We don't need to move by February 2nd of 2021. This is a phased approach, even by Atlassian's definition, which means that organizations can really capitalize on that staged approach and leverage an incentive like the extended cloud trial license to make sure that you do things gradually at your own comfort pace, to get to a point where you're ready to do that cutover, switch to a production license, and have minimal impact, minimal friction across the team. So that's something very important to consider. It's readily available for a lot of Atlassian's cloud, almost all Atlassian's cloud, on-prem customers moving to the cloud. And that's something we can happily walk you through and give you the guidance on how to get there and how to get that ECTL actually running on your environment in tandem with the production server license that you have currently. I think the other thing that I've found astonishing, and really the degree of the extent of what Atlassian's doing in terms of discounts, has been really outstanding. So the loyalty discounts is the other incentive that I would like to focus on. Loyalty discounts have been given, and they're kind of they're tiered and kind of relate to what you currently have on server in terms of products and license tier. But those loyalty discounts can be up to 55, 40, 40 to 55% of discounts that you would apply on top of your cloud purchase, to make sure that total cost of ownership, just from a pure licenses standpoint, is going to get decreased massively. And at least for the first couple of years, there are huge cost efficiencies to leverage, and you're going to realize that the cost per user, and therefore the overall migration cost, is going to be significantly lower. And considering the value that you're going to get from migrating to something like a Jira Cloud Premium or a Confluence Cloud Premium, is going to be massive, and it's going to make your decision a much easier decision. As I said, we all know, and that's the reality, it will boil down to cost, obviously, paired with the complexities. But the loyalty discount incentive offered by Atlassian will make that cost decision much, much easier. And I would definitely invite any of you attendees here today to contact us, and so we can actually work with Atlassian to calculate what those loyalty discounts would mean to you and your business, and start putting the pieces together and understanding what that cost would look like. So those are the two main, and I think most valuable incentives that Atlassian has made available, that being the enterprise cloud trial license and the loyalty discount. So happy to walk you through both of those and to help you understand what that means for your business in terms of cost savings and minimizing the impact of the migration.
Thanks, Faisal. That's like a pretty in-depth answer to those incentives and what Atlassian is offering as well for anyone who is thinking of migrating to the cloud or data center. The next question that we have on our list, we already tackled, but I just want to give Ben the opportunity if he wants to add anything on it. And the question is about whether all the add-ons and plugins are going to work on the cloud, and if not, if there's a timeline that most of those add-ons will work, or how will that function work over the next couple of months or year?
Yeah, good question. So the first thing to note here is that for anyone who hasn't gleaned this already, just be a app in our marketplace might be available for only server and data center or only cloud. So you may be using an app that is not yet available in cloud, if that's your intended path forward. Over the past few years, we've made a tremendous amount of progress on this. Like in July of 2019, we only had like 900 apps in the cloud, and now we have over 1,500. So we're making a huge progress on getting more apps in the cloud, but it is something to be aware of in the assessment process, that you need to understand if your apps are going to be available in cloud. And if they aren't, then keep keep your eyes peeled over the coming months because they might become available.
Thanks, Ben. And I also want to ask that second question to you. And are there any feature differences in products when it comes to data center versus cloud? If so, does Atlassian have plans to eventually even out those differences?
Yeah, good question. So yes, there are features that are only available in cloud that are not available on premise. A great example of one of those features would be next-gen projects. Next-gen projects allows you to delegate administration to project level admins rather than having all of the administration be at the application level, as you might be used to on-prem. That's a great example of a feature that is available in cloud that might never come to data center. And the reason for that is because of the different code bases that I mentioned earlier. So just because we have created that functionality for cloud doesn't mean that we can just like copy paste it into our data center code, right? The code is completely different and the architecture of the code is completely different. So creating a feature like next-gen projects might only stay in cloud. And that's why what I said earlier is so important, that when you choose a platform, you're also choosing a roadmap, because remember that you might be getting not only different features now, but different features in the future.
Thanks. So just what I got out of this is basically when you are deciding whether you want to be on the cloud or data center, think of the features that you would that you would want, because not necessarily all features are available on every platform. Perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, jumping to our next question. I will be ready to move to cloud next year, given our lengthy security assessment period. However, I will be migrating to data center this year. Will I be able to take advantage of any incentives next year when I'm able to migrate to cloud? Oh, Faisal, I think that goes to you since you've already discussed it.
Yeah, I touched on this, I think, a bit previously, and I won't spend too much time on this. I think what I would like to say is that the Atlassian has made available a lot of, and previously answered security assessments, so we can make that whole process much less arduous and much less time consuming. We do recognize that there are certain processes within companies that could be a bog down and that could lengthen processes to make, or lengthen decision making process. We can take that from your hands, work with your procurement departments, with your IT security departments, to make sure that that is a much less time consuming process and a much less arduous process. But I definitely want to pass it over to Ben, because I know incentives made available by Atlassian have been super lucrative, and it reinforces the extent of focus and attention being given to the cloud offering as a whole. But wanted to lean on you on what your sense is on the continuity of such incentives as a means to continue facilitating frictionless transitions and migrations from on-prem server deployments to Atlassian's hosted cloud product.
Yeah, when I started at Atlassian 5 years ago, it was unheard of to have a discount. That was not a thing that we did at all. And so the fact that we're providing these types of loyalty discounts is pretty phenomenal to me. I can't speak directly to like the longevity of particular programs, but what I can speak to is how seriously we're taking the migration to cloud, and then that's reflected in these kinds of discounts, these kinds of incentives, and I don't see that stopping because it is congruent with our investment in the platform.
Awesome. That's very, very good to hear.
Thanks. And we still have a couple of minutes before we reach our 2 p.m. Eastern time deadline. So I want to close it with a couple of thoughts from each of you. And I want to start with Myron by sharing with us like a simple question of what comes next, or what is next.
Yeah, so great question. I just want to reiterate, working with Appnovation, our goal is to get you through your migration with your products, your apps intact, and support you to have minimal downtime and disruption of your critical workflows or loss of functionality. That's what our goal is. And so at this point, you're probably you're making a decision and you're at two places. On the one hand, you decide to move to the cloud. Great. We are laser focused on working with and delivering successful migrations right now to our clients and our partners. and we're looking forward to talk to you about your migration. On the other hand, you have some things to consider, and you're not sure that you're ready to move to cloud yet. Great. If you're in this category, understand that you're not alone. There are a lot of organizations that are making these decisions, but what we want to do is make sure that you're not alone while you're doing that. Our team can help you build the case for the right solution for your present and future needs. So just remember that we're here and we can support you through that as well.
Thanks, Myron. Faisal, same question.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm going to throw a curveball here. I definitely want to, I definitely want to hear from Ben. I mean, Ben, you're part of Atlassian, which is definitely a very forward-thinking company and kind of, spearheading a lot of these market changes and the way the market is evolving into a cloud-first driven and cloud-first mentality. So I want to hear about what excites you. What are you looking forward to the most? Within the Atlassian realm, but also maybe even a broader market change or things that you're looking towards. Would love to hear your sort of 2 cents on that.
Yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was working really heavily with unleashing customers that wanted to leverage AWS, and because that was like the cutting edge, the tip of the spear at the time for cloud technology, and we did a lot in that area, and now we're cutting edge in our own SaaS product. And what I'm excited about is this real ramp. We did a ton of investment a few years back on that code break that I've mentioned a couple times, and that really required like this big investment of work that didn't really result in a lot of visible changes. Like there was work in the background, but you couldn't really see it, right? And we've done all of that pre-work, and we're gonna ramp up now, right? And you're gonna start seeing like these exponential increases in our like performance and our user limitations and our feature functionality that I think is really gonna excite customers and really revolutionize like what we know today as the Atlassian cloud. So I'm excited to see that exponential growth.
We're excited to be on that journey with you. I think it's been an exciting few years, and there's only more exciting stuff to come. And to everyone on the call, we're excited to making sure you make the right move and are making the right decision for your business, and working with Atlassian's great team to make sure we're collaborating on everyone's success. So Nassim, thanks for the opportunity to discuss this today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you, Myron. Thank you, Ben. That's been an awesome conversation. Just a couple of housekeeping for anyone who attended or those that didn't attend, you'll receive a follow-up email with the recording for this. So if you like to watch it, you will have that. We will also host it on our website. So you can also head to appnovation.com and watch the recording of this session. Again, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you to our speakers, and had a good afternoon, evening, or morning. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thanks so much, everyone.